Hey, what's up, everybody? It is your good friend Raph Esparza coming to you. I believe it is live over on this beautiful Thursday afternoon, 4:26. I'm going to go ahead and start this live video over on both. We've got our Instagram and we've got our Facebook going. So if you see me splitting time between the two, that is how you know things are working. So you guys may notice this is actually coming to you live, not from Verbal Tap, but from the Grappling Hour. So just to give you a quick idea of what's going on, I'm basically doing a spin-off show. Verbal Tap isn't going anywhere, but every once in a while there are going to be things that seem to kind of make us feel like we need to go ahead and chat. I feel, in my opinion, that there are a lot of grapplers who don't get their due, and I mean, we're interviewing people constantly. We have more people to interview on the podcast than we have shows available, if you can believe that. So I think it merited for all of us to go ahead and start doing this is a side project. So if you guys would be so kind and you would tell some friends and you would subscribe and you guys want to watch it, that'd be perfectly great, because what we're going to do is now we're going to start talking about not just grapplers, but everything that seems to be going on. And right now, the big thing of interest that just happened was the Conor McGregor press conference. So I put up a vote over on Verbal Tap on our Instagram page, and it seems to be split. Some people seem to have really loved what they saw today between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. And some people just said, like, what the fuck were we watching? And I understand. That seems to be a kind of weird split between the two. So while I have you guys watching live, if you have questions, comments, concerns, hints, allegations, shoot them in, because in a couple weeks we're actually going to be doing full-scale Grappling Hour shows. So it's not just going to be, us talking about something that's current or events. We're going to have lots and lots of guests who are going to come through, people who you know and some who you might not even know. But to begin, let's start with this. I want to know, if you guys are watching right now, and I see some of you over on our Instagram, say hello. Oh no, don't look at that. That's just weird bullshit. I just wanted to wave to you guys and say hello. I want to know what you guys thought of the press conference. So feel free to go ahead and chime in on our comment section. I'll be able to go ahead and address some of them as we do a live broadcast. Somebody just put on here, and this is one of my good friends, Alex, am I right? He just said UFC and Conor shamelessly using the bus incident to promote the fight. We knew that was going to happen from minute one. The fight game is not exactly the world's most civilized aspect. So you definitely have people who, it's not something that's foreign to them. They're used to using the Dolly incident as something that they can use as further way to get people interested in it, because that's kind of what they do. Hello, David Bento Photography. Good to see you, sir. I wasn't surprised that they were using the footage, so it doesn't seem to be that big of a surprise to me. What is a surprise to me, however, is why they decided to do it over in New York. Because there was somebody, and I believe is our good friend Mark, over from MMA Fighting, I believe. He asked a question, and he said, hey, just wondering why no public for this very big press conference. They're calling it one of the biggest fights of all time. Why would they not have people in the audience? Especially with somebody who attracts that sort of audience like Conor McGregor. Dana White said, and I thought this was kind of weird, but he said, it's because we don't want another fucking problem here. Which I think is a very weird way of addressing something, because then you just think to yourself, well, who says you have to do it in New York? Why don't you just go somewhere else and do the press conference there? Again, I know, I'm thinking far, far too difficult for a number of things. I just felt it was very odd that we have one Senor Dana White who's struggling, I think, to try and figure out ways to hype this event. So when you have that happening and you have people who are clearly wanting to kill each other on the stage, you probably are trying to take all of the opportunities to make sure that they don't manslaughter. I get that. But let's call a spade a spade. So when you're off into the press conference and it starts all weird like that, I just thought for one of the things that we were seeing consistently, people were saying that Conor McGregor looked like he was on cocaine. I don't know that he looked like he's on cocaine. He might have been drunk. I mean, that's the big association that happens with Conor McGregor. I would, however, call him a cocaine Tinkerbell, which means that without an audience there to applaud him, he might come off as a little bit erratic. And to a number of people who may be very entertained by this sort of a thing, you do have to admit Conor did seem a little bit off of his game, because there was definitely something not coherent. He was yelling a lot, but I think a lot of that is due to the fact that when you have a large audience, you play to that audience. When you have no audience and you're Conor McGregor, then you get a little nervous, one might say. Anyway, this was something that Alex put on his notes, and he just said, Dana has no control over Conor. Yeah, it seems pretty much right. Dana, the whole time he was seeing Conor, just seemed to be smiling and shrugging off and saying, oh, this Conor guy. You guys, just Conor, you calm down here. So it begs a question, though. At what point, when Dana said he was disgusted beyond belief with Conor McGregor's actions when the bus accident happened, not even accident, the bus incident, at what point do you think to yourself, well, how far is this going to go? And how much do we need to sell a fight? He also puts that Khabib did not understand half of what was being said. That's fine. I guess that brings me to an overall aspect of this, which is, what did you guys expect from Khabib? Because I don't particularly think he's a super great shit talker to begin with, or a trash talker. But instead, you had Khabib getting on there, and he just seemed to be a little bit lost when Conor wasn't interrupting him multiple times. So when you have Khabib sitting there trying to figure out what to say, and he's like trying to form his shit talking, we have the MMA press conference equivalent of MGK versus Eminem. Nah, it's not right. Just felt like the hyped thing to say, especially when we get one Mike Froster joining. That's the only thing he'll respond to. He only understands rap battles at this point. But if we are judging this as a rap battle because it's supposed to be two gentlemen with a microphone, Khabib's entire purpose is to go out there and say, I'm a good fighter. So when he tries to get in there and ruffle McGregor's feathers, if you would, it seems a little odd when he really couldn't evoke a response out of McGregor. He kept trying and saying, oh, McGregor, how come your friend did not slap me back? I mean, could it be the fact that there was 10 guys there when Lebov was being slapped to just 2? I don't know. Could it be the fact that McGregor's like, why the fuck are you gonna ask about my friend, dog? Like, I'm sitting here shitting on you, and your best response is, yeah, go ask your friend. A+. So, again, we weren't expecting much from Khabib. I will say the one moment that really seemed to irk me about what Khabib was doing is that, yes, you had Conor McGregor going around and being crazy and saying his usual nonsense. But there was one reporter who very nicely said over to one Khabib, and he was just like, Hassan Malikim, which a reporter doesn't have to do. He doesn't have to say, hey, I just want to be very respectful if I can and just say a nice greeting to you. And Khabib was totally fine with that. The next part of his sentence, he goes over to Conor and says, oh, and congratulations on your whiskey. So trying to address both individual gentlemen for, I guess, things that they're known for. And Khabib chimes in and says, whoa, 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 you cannot say those two things back to back. What do you mean you can't say those two things back to back? I can say whatever the goddamn I want. I understand you're coming from Russia, pal, but what the fuck? Don't tell me what I can and cannot say. It just seemed like a weird sort of Khabib's in his realm of lecturing, and I'm not here for that. As somebody who's worked as press on these events, you don't get a ton of time to really address and air your grievances with the fighters, but there's a strange reason why Khabib a few weeks ago was seen interacting with a homeless guy, and then some people think, oh, maybe he's just kind of being a dick. That might aid that perception, one might say. What's up, Anders? How you doing, sir? I haven't seen you over at training, so I think you need to be joining us very soon. Anyway, neither here nor there. I thought that was a weird part in terms of Khabib and how he was being addressed. And moreover than that, it seemed like Khabib was thrown a little bit in terms of not just his own shit talking, but what he was there for. Because Conor, when he comes out, I told someone this. I told a good friend of mine. I said, it looked like Conor was kind of Eddie Murphying this. Like he was literally press conferencing for two, and I think that's part of the reason why he looks so erratic. It's because he literally had to go from saying shit about himself to trying to hype the fight to coming back and trying to address Khabib and whatever he's saying. So it seemed weird, though. So when Conor's in the middle of talking his shit and Khabib's trying to formulate sentences and keeps getting interrupted all the time, you would think a moderator would step in. But Dana White's not here for that. Dana White is all about like, I'm gonna let Conor do whatever the fuck he wants, cause man, this guy, am I right? You can't deny the fact that he steps in every single time we need a big fight. Like that's Dana's go-to line whenever Conor's been in trouble. So those are a few of my perceptions on that to begin with. I don't know where you guys fall in. I'm not sure, Frosto. You saw it. I'm sure you did. Anders, if you guys have comments or ideas, I'd love to hear what you guys thought. We did get a question, though, from a good friend, a Billiam, one might say, Placidos Toledo, who writes, how inebriated was Conor, and what substances was he on? Great question. This is the type of questioning that I will 100% be looking forward to when the Grappling Hour becomes a live regular series. So thank you, Billiam. I think the answer is, if Conor was really looking to show what this press conference was about, it was about his whiskey. At one point, he stopped talking shit about Khabib altogether and just talked about the fact that Jameson, the drink Jameson, is bullshit and doesn't even compare to his proper whiskey. I'll take 2 cases of proper 12, which, I mean, is a fair assessment because Conor was trying to run his own part of the game. He said that people would be able to come in on this live press conference if they had two, I think it was just 2 of whatever. I don't know if it was supposed to be cases because I was definitely not going to buy that shit. But 2 of his new proper whiskey. Of course, the UFC backtracked that and said, like, that's not happening. I mean, Conor runs a lot of this shit, but he's definitely not pulling that off. And lo and behold, when you saw the empty arena, something didn't look right. Anyway, I'm glad that that's what you said. Anders says, saw highlights, but definitely noticed Conor pulling weight for both. Reminds me of him with Aldo. He knew Aldo had no real selling point. Possibly. I mean, the weird part about this is when they said that Conor was doing no press, and there's kind of rumors going around that he didn't seem excited or want to do any of the press for this. That's what Conor does. Sometimes we're like, for me personally, him versus Mayweather, it wasn't the fight. It was the press conference leading up to it. And I believe that he annihilated Floyd on those. So that was my note. Dusty Neal says, Conor seemed more angry than high, in my opinion, and the alcohol was probably making him stumble on his words. Yet some people were acknowledging the fact that he was stumbling a little bit. As somebody who's competed in speech and debate, I understand what it's like to judge people on how many flubs or vocal breaks that they have as things that you deter them from. I have a hard time doing it when it's supposed to be off the cuff. I think people are not robots, and you're supposed to be able to have interruptions and forget things. And like I just did right there, you just sometimes say the word and it's a way of showing it's not a prepared speech. I have less issue with that and more of an issue of Conor McGregor just trying to get his words in edgewise, that he consistently seemed a little desperate, urgent maybe. Those are some of the words, I think. Dusty, I thank you very much for your comment on that. And same to you over to Anders. Frosto, you didn't really contribute much, if I'm being honest. But this is the issue, though. As we continue to go around this, and we see that these 2 individuals are clearly trying to get us excited for a fight. You have Conor McGregor doing the heavy lifting. You have Khabib, who did look like he was starting to get frayed as they were going on. Because Khabib tried to hold what was called the like status quo line of just being like, I'm a good fighter, I'll see you, okay? We'll see who fights. Who fights? Undead. Then you can't run from me. All that sort of bullshit. Now's where it gets weird, though, because you can see as he's getting a little bit more angry as the press conference goes on, and then it gets a little weird because Conor does his homework. He doesn't just attack Khabib throughout. There are some weird instances of Conor McGregor attacking not just Khabib as a fighter, but for what he stands for. We're going to come back to this as well. Someone make a good point that without the audience, a lot of the pauses, smack talk, breathing, and awkwardness were much more apparent than we usually see here. Yes, my good friend Austin Stack, I said those things. I mean, I don't believe I'm the only one to say it, so I understand that. Yes, without an audience, I think it is a lot more difficult. Austin himself is a wonderful performer. When you have an audience and you are doing shit talking, just like when you're doing comedy, there is a little bit of give and take time. If you tell a joke, you don't just run over it. You give the audience maybe a second to laugh, but you don't become dependent on it. Conor has become so beautiful at saying a line and knowing that his drunk Irish crew is ready and willing to wait to laugh at any given point. Don't be sorry, Austin. It's fine. I can't hold you accountable for everything in MMA. But it's interesting because without the audience, it seemed like Conor, and I'm going to repeat my phrasing of this to make sure I trademark it so that nobody else takes it, but as Cocaine Tinkerbell, it seemed like Conor, he wasn't dying, he just wasn't alive as much as he could be with the fact that there's no audience there to revive him. If this was, some sort of storied fable telling, you would see him going more and more dead and people coming over. If this was an NBC production, they'd be like, no, Cocaine Tinkerbell is dying. Someone get proper whiskey. Maybe 2 crates. 1? 2? I don't really know. Anyway, those are just some impressions off of that. Anders929 says, they should watch some Macho Man promo cuts. I mean, obviously, Conor seems to go from the wheelhouse of Ric Flair, so that's not necessarily off the base. I think that Macho Man is... I don't think anybody will ever be able to recreate what Macho Man has done or ever did. And I say that with knowing that Jay Lethal is quite good at doing an impression. And it makes you feel good because you're like, oh, the Macho Man still lives in him. But, like, that cadence, the cream of the crop, all of these things, it's a magic we'll never be able to recreate. Anyway, those are some notes to begin with off there. But thank you very much, Anders. Taking your questions. This is a good time to remind you guys. This is basically the Grappling Hour. We're doing a soft launch right now. I wanted to talk a little bit of the things that I saw. I actually watched it en route coming back to my place. And as it was happening, I was tweeting out a few things just because I wanted to document some of the things I did want to talk about. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, son? It's good to see you, Sue. I don't know when we get to train, but we need to train together very soon. The Grappling Hour, again, just to kind of fill you guys in if you're just tuning in right now, the Grappling Hour is going to be, think those shows where people Skype in and you see multiple grapplers maybe calling in on a hour, maybe 2 hour kind of a show. And, obviously grappling is the primary focus, but most people, if you fight MMA, you're already a grappler. So we're hoping to get a lot of guests on here. I actually just talked with one of the guests today that we're booking for our premiere show, which we're looking to have on October 2nd. So if you could do us a solid, add us on Instagram, @Grappling Hour. Go ahead and add us on your Facebook. Share this video right now so we can get more and more people. As we get closer to the launch date, we're obviously going to be putting up more on both the verbal tap stuff and stuff like that, just so that we can go and continue going that way. Because I want to make sure that you guys are a part of what we are doing next. Taking your questions, comments, concerns, hints, and allegations on the UFC 229 presser. I saw we just got a new comment over this way. I'm going to go ahead and address that one. Perhaps you already commented, but is anyone talking about one of the moments where Conor basically said that if Khabib doesn't fight Putin and the Russians will kill him? Yeah, this is where we get into the political side of things, where when we say that Conor was really starting to get inside of Khabib's brain. You know, Khabib usually seems pretty unflappable just because he's boring, but he's an amazing fighter, and it does seem hard to get into him. He's mentally very strong. There was one moment, though, it was especially toward the end, when he started talking about his father, and there seemed to be a little bit of an insinuation that Khabib and his family has no honor. So, this gets weird because if you remember back at the World Cup, Khabib was there. He was at the World Cup. But it was Conor McGregor who was sitting with Putin. So we're already at a weird starting point on this whole thing. Now extrapolate that when Conor starts talking about the Chechens. And there's a lot there, but most of it seems to be insinuating the fact that they were so... Khabib and his family, they're basically just kind of sycophants. They are scared. They are backstabbers. And rightfully so in this regard. It felt like Khabib goes, oh, this is what we're talking about? Like, really, dude? And I have to say, it looked like it was somewhat effective because Conor looked like he was starting to actually agitate him. To the point where when he did respond and he did press that about his family and he said, you know, look at my family. I mean, Conor went in his very usual way of turning it back into saying like, you know, me family, we were run away from the UK and we couldn't even say the word McGregor for like 100 years, which I was like, 100 years? Whoa, shit, that seems like a really long time, Conor. I'd like to see the paperwork on that. But listen, the Irish have been very oppressed for a number of reasons, from a number of different people. I'm not gonna really call him out on that. But I can say this, when he was talking about them, it did seem to get to the point where you saw, and I need some kind of like, we'll just, perfect. I was like, I need something that looks like a microphone. So you saw Khabib get like this with his microphone, look like he was gonna say something. And then it looked like he just kind of got a little angry. And that's when he put down the microphone. He went to pick it up at least 2 or 3 more times, but he really just kept it down for the rest of the press conference. It seemed at that point that Khabib pretty much said to himself, I'm not going to win here. So why am I going to go out of my way to try and out shit talk this guy who clearly, maybe in his mind, has no honor? Because that wasn't where it stopped. Now, we start to get into this article, and I don't know if you guys have read it, but I want to thank our good friend, Senor, I remember his name, Milton Aguayo, who sent me this article, and it's by, I believe, Mike Russell. Now, why this one? He's talking about Ali Abdel Aziz. Now, the insinuation here is that at the very end, you might have heard Conor McGregor saying, you do not fucking nothing, get away! And it's when they're doing the stare down and Conor has his 2 belts, which, by the way, very funny. I want to make it very clear. If I had ever won 2 belts and they both got taken away from me, I would 100% still show up with said 2 belts. Anyway, the insinuation seems to be here, and this is from Mike Russell's, just a little blurb from his Twitter, and I'll explain what it means. But it says, FYI, Noah is the son Ali abandoned in Colorado when he started as an informant for the NYPD, and who he is $50,000 behind in child support for. Mike Russell then asserts, the notorious MMA does his homework when preparing for war. Now, apparently, Mike's going to turn this into a little bit of a podcast, series, maybe serial it out. But I would implore you guys to go check out this article. And again, my thanks to Milton Aguayo, who passed this over my way. But the headline is, Ali Abdelaziz investigation in Nevada could thwart World Series of Fightings. And I'm sure you can find it there when you go ahead and Google it. So it wasn't just like Conor was coming just to do a press conference. He does his homework, as Mike mentioned, and seemed to level it to the point where instead of even doing a full pose off, you had Khabib pretty much just walk off the stage. So I can't say for certain that got to him, or just, Khabib was like, fuck this shit, I'm not going to be here for this. But now you're getting into the point of, well, this could be a thing. This could be something that we see Conor repeat, or that he figured he said enough. And if this is really going to be the only press conference that we see going into this next big thing, then at least we've got some stuff to go ahead and fodder over. And Mike is 100% going to have some fun seeing his numbers go highly up on that podcast if he chooses to serial it. So those were kind of the big takeaways. I'll go ahead and read you guys just a couple of the tweets that I wrote out, just because there was one thing that I think is really important that I need to make sure you guys understand this. Well, here's the thing. I said at one point, this is basically QVC for Conor's whiskey. And I feel that's 100% accurate. Number two, I said that Conor going without a crowd is his version of going acoustic. Like, Conor without a crowd, it really did seem like, I think the first time, especially for fans, when you saw Dylan Goes Electric, and people were like, whoa, what the fuck, dude? That is not what I signed up for. I was a little hesitant to use that comparison because I wasn't sure the age group of this. I didn't live in the 60s, people. I just know my music. Anyway. At one point, I actually said, and I started feeling bad for Khabib, and this was like really beginning of the presser. I just said, can I write some lines for him? Because, listen, I felt like he needed some ammunition. I felt like he tried to get under his skin. He tried to really press at some point. And I can understand if you feel like you can't get in a word edgewise. But Khabib just looked like he wasn't prepared. Sometimes it's better to just hand somebody something. Like, if I could even be around the desk and just kind of like hand him a card that just says, like, literally just read this. I promise you, you're going to look much better than just sitting there like this. Yeah, but how about you? But, I guess it's not Khabib time. Is what it started coming down to. 700 fucking years! Yeah, no shit. There was one thing that I wanted to share with you guys that happened to me that I wasn't sure happened to anybody else. But I would 100% not recommend listening to that press conference on headphones. I was in Uber, and when I was listening to it on my Uber, I had my headphones on, and as I'm like taking down notes here and there, there's nobody modulating that sound. That sound is essentially like watching an action film at like 1 a.m. when you have neighbors and you're really worried that they didn't modulate the same dialogue levels that they did for the machine gun going off, and you go, Jesus Christ. You gotta level it up and down. That's essentially what was happening anytime Conor got really crazy. And at one point, it kind of seemingly vaguely looked like Conor was slapping Dana, and Dana was all for it. And I couldn't see that angle, but he definitely was like doing this and saying, I showed me hands, me hands. And I was like, dope. Dana's really living that one. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that somebody wrote that down, because I wrote it down here. But I'll come back to this. So Proper Whiskey is a sponsor of UFC 229. Conor, he said that the whiskey will be on the canvas just like his face will be. I wrote that. We just had a fan correct us who said, just like his blood will be, not face, which is an important way of correcting. Anyway, the whole point is some part of Khabib or something that comes out of him will be on the canvas. And I think that when we talk about the difference between somebody who knows how to end a press conference and somebody who was struggling throughout the majority of it, I would really hope that, we gave at least Khabib one good one-liner. Because especially when Conor started coming back in on his, well, you said text me your address and we'll go from there. And Khabib was like, yeah, you're right. And he goes, well, I'm right here. Why don't you do something? And he's like, I will wrestle you. And at one point when the both of them were saying, like, you want to wrestle? You want to wrestle? You want to wrestle? And it was just like, you guys are fighting. Khabib is very solid wrestling, but like if y'all are gonna wrestle, like at least put that one on like Flow Wrestling and charge some people for it, and I can guarantee you it's not gonna be the thing that everybody wants to see. However, John Jones has said, don't underestimate Conor McGregor's wrestling. It may make the difference on the fight on October 6th, which, by the way, if I'm revealing something to you guys right now, I'm not actually going to be able to see this fight. I'm going to tell you what. No, I've heard this before. I have heard many people not happy about it. Here's the way it's going down. 2 of my friends are getting married that day. I didn't pick the date. About a month and a half ago, I was sitting here doing a calendar, as I always do, and I literally look at the calendar and I go, 6, why is the 6th the date? Then stop giving me frowny faces. I didn't do this shit. And I pull up my calendar and I look at it and I say, fuck, they're getting married the same day. And we're not talking fight fans here. We're talking my good friends who are in entertainment and who may have a vague idea of who and what is fighting, but don't care. Conor did his mad homework, bringing up Noah, Ali Chetnian, the Dagestanis. No one does a presser like Conor. Yeah, of course. I think the important thing is to note the difference between being a Conor McGregor stan and understanding the different levels between individuals who are doing it. Like, I can say that Conor was more erratic in this press conference as somebody who's like, all right, I'm looking at that objectively. But, like, did everything land? No. But if you're looking at it as a whole, that motherfucker was Eddie Murphy on stage. Like, he must have been playing all the roles. If I want to go back and look at the tape, because I think the reason the press conference started so late is that Conor McGregor might have actually switched costumes, and there might have been a green screen, and he might have actually played Khabib at one point during the press conference. I can't prove it, but it's how I feel in my heart, which sometimes, as we know in today's world, is a fact. Anyway, yeah, I'm not happy about it. At this wedding, I'm trying to put on a good face. If you guys see me literally sitting at this wedding, and I don't think you will. I don't think any of you guys know some of my friends here. And I feel bad for them. I don't want to put it on them. They were very nice to invite me to their day of wedded bliss. However, I'm just saying, you know, I didn't do this to myself. So if you see me at a wedding like this, and I do this, and I go, oh, yeah, rice, yay. I don't think that's rude. And I'm not going to watch, like, every fight. Like, maybe a couple of the prelims. Because, like, if we're really doing the spaced out time of this whole thing, most of the wedding takes place at, like, what, 4 to 5, and then you got that dinner downtime. So, really, if we're talking about it, I think by the time we get to, like, the best man speech, I might be able to just kind of step outside and just watch part of the fights on there. That's what I'm hoping. Or at the very least, like, it's time when people are dancing and everybody's like, oh, Raph, how long are you going to stay? And my wife and I are like, oh, gotta go. Oh, man, so tired. Ooh, yawn. And then I just go next door to whatever bar showing it. Like, super nice dress clothes. And that's my life, kids. It was really sad to find that out. I had people say, so how are you going to break the news to them and tell them you're not going to their wedding? And I said, I'm a shitty friend, but I'm not that shitty. So, anyway. What I can tell you is this. That week seems to be pretty exciting for us over here at the Grappling Hour because of a few things. Number one, we premiere that week on October 2nd. So we're going to have several guests. Like I said, I already talked to one today. We're going to be looking to schedule a few more. We're going to basically do it. Maybe you've seen another show do something where they just kind of hang out and they call people on Skype, people that you know, maybe after a fight weekend. I don't know who that guy is or is not anymore, apparently. But I just thought of it like this. Grappling deserves something akin to this because there are so many grapplers who do so many great things. They put their lives just basically for your entertainment week in and week out. And we have more grapplers than we do minutes on the Verbal Tap podcast. And this is something that I love doing. So I would love the opportunity to make this a recurring show, basically an extension of what we already do on Facebook Live, and continue to bring you really, really fun interviews and innovate some new things here and there because, we'll be able to maybe watch matches with friends or, do a few surprises, stuff like that. So I don't want to give too much away right now, but that's what we got. We just had Austin who said, ceremony, cocktail hour, best man speech, excuse yourself to the men's room. I'll be by the kitchen back door with the engine running. Let's just say this right now. Austin is the best wingman. He's not a sidekick. He told me to call him a sidekick, and I'm like, I can't do that. Best co-host, other entity, best friend, bro. Because you got this man who's not planning a getaway, like we robbed something. He's planning a ref, get in here. We got to see this fight. It's too much. I have in the past ordered it on my phone. However, I think the rest of the card is okay. There's some really good fights on there. But we'll see. Maybe I'll just have to do that thing where I'm just going to have to wait for Instagram to tell me who won. But I might order it on my phone. Anyway, so we premiere on the 2nd, and then I believe on the 5th, it's entirely possible I might be over in Las Vegas to cover Quintet, which has a number of really, really solid participants. And I would really love the opportunity to go ahead and get to cover that. We're waiting to hear back. And then from there, October's just a series of things. We've got a lot of our friends fighting at King of the Cage on October 20th. On October 27th, we've got CXF. So again, while this is more of a grappling-based program, we will still be putting on MMA fighters, and we will still be bringing on people who we know and love, who at their core are, yes, grapplers. I just want to say this, it's a weird week. John Jones did some shit, basically ratted out, did the one thing that Robert De Niro told you never to do, in basically every Robert De Niro movie ever made. We'll talk about that on Verbal Tap this week. Oh, yeah, I'm not going anywhere on Verbal Tap. We're still doing that weekly. So, that's what I got for you guys. Austin, no, you're the best. I love you very much, my man. So, that's what I got for you guys today. I hope that you guys join us. We're going to have some more events leading into our premiere. And, tweet at me, Instagram, DM me, do all those things. Tell me what it is you'd like to see on this show, because right now, it's my favorite part about putting a show together, which is you get in that pre-production phase where you start to figure out what it is you want to see on the show. And so I've always been really good about trying to implement what it is you guys suggest and then go out there and imagine it and make it happen. So that's what I got for you guys. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Again, do me a solid. If you liked anything we talked about today, go ahead and do us a solid. Add us on Grappling Hour right up here. You can do it. I think is it underneath that way? It might be here. It might be there. So add me there, or maybe it's right there. And check us out, because we're going to have some new programs coming out very soon for you guys. And it's my hope that we do the sport of grappling a true honor, and give you guys the opportunity to see some cool conversations. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see you very soon. Nope. Gotta end that there. And I gotta end that right there. Peace.